OC Rock Radio. It is now time for the Cover 2 podcast. Lots of NFL news, lots of college football news, and we'll even talk about a little boxing. But to start with, I'm Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
And Jared, we have a good show today. There's a lot to talk about. Obviously, with the big boxing match over the weekend, and a lot of NFL storylines, and a lot of unexpected stuff that happened in the NFL, along with some college football upsets and stuff like that. What are you most excited about today on the show?
It's definitely the NFL talk. College football was very exciting. We are definitely going to get into that boxing match. That's a little bit later in the show, so I'm not even going to say anything now.
I know. Yeah, let's talk about it later.
We'll talk about it later. But there are some surprises this week in the NFL. A couple upsets, if you will. A couple teams who are 2-0 that maybe you wouldn't expect to be 2-0. A few teams, one in particular that ended up getting blown out, my Cowboys, which we will definitely dive into, and the Sunday night football match, the Packers kind of not getting destroyed, but really getting handled for the most part by the Falcons, and then the Monday night showdown where the Giants can't seem to find their offense, and even with Odell Beckham, do not look good off to an 0-2 start. Yeah. So definitely some interesting storylines heading into Week 3.
Well, let's start with that Falcons-Packers game, because I believe that was I would say the most entertaining game. And I want to start with this. I believe after this win, because it looked like it might happen again, I think people should stop talking about the Falcons blowing the Super Bowl. I think this kind of proved that they could beat a good team. They beat them at home in a big game. And I think I'm getting kind of tired of everybody bringing up the Falcons losing the Super Bowl and blowing it, because they didn't blow this game against the Packers. And I think everybody should stop talking about that. I think the Falcons are back. I think they're a lot like what they were last year. And I'm excited because that just creates another NFL team to watch for in the league that is going to be good this season. What do you think about the Falcons' performance?
Yeah, no, listen, for you to say the Falcons are back, for me, it's not about the Falcons being back. I mean, I think they've always been there.
Yeah.
They had a major collapse.
Just the last 2 games.
Yeah, they had a major collapse. They screwed up. I mean, listen, it was on them. They easily should have won the Super Bowl, obviously. But this year's a new team. Every year, in just about every sport, mainly in football because there's so much turnover, a lot of guys on this team were not there last year. So, yeah, you still have Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Devontae Freeman and the mainstay guys. But, a lot of the depth guys and the guys on the end of the roster were not there. So they don't have to worry about all that pressure of how are you guys going to play. They're just going out and doing their thing. And so I think for the rest of the veterans, I think they've gotten past that now, and they're saying, hey, listen, we want to come out and prove that that wasn't, we weren't Cinderellas, or that, we want to come out and do it again. And I think so far they've proven that with their offense and the way that the defense has played. I will say they did lose Vic Beasley in that game.
Yeah.
He's going to be out, I believe, is it a tricep?
I'm not sure exactly what the injury was.
I believe it's some type of upper body injury, but he's going to be out for about a month. He was the NFL leader in sacks last year, so that's going to be a tough blow for them. But I think they still have enough pieces on defense to where they can, depth-wise, to where they can, hold it down until he gets back. But offensively, they look really sharp right now, and it showed against the Packers.
Yeah, but they disappointed a little bit against the Bears. And what I meant by them being back, it was just them dominating a good team. Because although I don't know what the score was, I think the Packers might have made it a little closer than it really was. But this was a Falcons domination. This is a lot like what we saw last year. The defense played good enough, especially against Aaron Rodgers. And the offense looked really, really good and did what they were supposed to do. Julio Jones played well. The running backs played well. And a lot of the complementary players, because of Julio Jones and guys like that, played well too. And that's what got the Falcons to the Super Bowl. And that's what got the Falcons essentially a Super Bowl win into the third quarter. So I think they're back. But let's talk about the Packers a little bit now. Packers are just not good away from home. And this is concerning for me because I think if they somehow don't get home field advantage, they're going to be in trouble in the playoffs. I do think this team's a playoff team. It's hard for me to ever say that Aaron Rodgers isn't going to make the playoffs. But it just seems like this team can't get it done on the road against good teams. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it comes down to their defense, really. I still say this, and I feel like I've been saying this for the last couple of years. They always seem to get banged up in the secondary. And listen, I understand they have good guys up front. Obviously, you've got Clay Matthews and Daniels. But if you can't cover, you're not going to be able to stop anyone in the NFL. Plain and simple. They've tried to kind of make up for that by drafting young players. HaHa Clinton-Dix was probably one that they hit on, their safety, who made it to the Pro Bowl last year. But really, they've drafted in the last 2 to 3 years, they've drafted 4 different cornerbacks in the top 2 rounds of the NFL draft. And so far, none of them have really panned out.
Yeah.
Through injuries, not being able to stay on the field, and honestly just poor performance. So I think it's really their defense that is letting them down because, yes, Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson and all their offensive weapons, they need to score more than the 20 points or whatever that they scored this past Sunday. But when their defense is giving up 30 and 40 points a game, especially on the road, like, what do you expect? As an offense, you're not going to score 40 points every game, so you need to be able to rely on your defense. And right now, I don't think they can do that. You are right; they do play better at home, but with as weak of a defense as I think they have, I don't think you can trust this team going down the stretch, even home games.
Well, I'll give you another example. I'm going to disagree with you slightly that the main reason they're bad is because of defense. I think it has a little more to do with the fact that their running game, they're not using the running game enough. I think Ty Montgomery is a good enough back to lead this team, and they're not using him enough. I mean, you have Aaron Rodgers. He'll throw the ball like he can. That will clear up holes for Ty Montgomery to run, and for some reason, they're not running the ball as much. 10 carries on the day, as you just pulled up the thing, against an Atlanta defense. This isn't the Seahawks. I can understand if it's the Seahawks that you're only going to run 10 or 15 times, but you got to run the ball more. I mean, I think they had 15 total rushes in the game, looking at the stats right now. That's horrendous. So I do think I'm going to blame a little bit on play calling this game as well. That may have had to do with the fact that Atlanta went up so quickly. But I think when you're as good as Green Bay and you have as good of a quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, you can use the running game to your advantage. And I just don't think they're doing that enough. And I think that's what's going to kill them, along with that defense. Though I'm not disagreeing. The defense, especially the secondary, isn't one of the top in the league. But these are the kind of holes we look at when we're looking at these kind of teams and saying, well, do we think the Green Bay Packers are going to get to the Super Bowl? As of right now, no, because of the defense and the running game.
Yeah, no, you bring up some great points, and I think the key word is balance.
Yeah,
having
exactly.
a balanced attack.
Balancing
Obviously,
everything.
Everyone knows that Aaron Rodgers can go out there and chuck the ball around and win you football games, but if you don't have any type of running game, like you mentioned when we're looking at the stats, and it seems like they only rushed I didn't know the stats were that bad. Had 15 rushing attempts.
Yeah, it's horrible.
As a defense, going up against that, you just have to know, all right, all we have to do is play against the pass. We don't even have to stop the run because they're not going to run the ball. So that's actually a good point, and another factor of why this Green Bay Packers team is 1-1, and in a sense, even though the score was 34-23, the Falcons really had control of this game.
Yeah. It
was really in the fourth quarter where the Packers were able to score a couple late touchdowns that were really meaningless. But Rodgers had 343 yards. That's an average day for him. But yeah,
totally.
When you only have 59 rushing yards for the game, that is not going to get it done. And especially for a team that is the Packers, that obviously, as we get later into the season, is going to be playing in more cold weather games.
Oh, yeah, totally.
When you have to go, obviously, when you're playing even at home in Wisconsin, and then when you have to go travel to Chicago, you're going to have to be able to run the ball.
Oh, totally. That's a very good point.
Aaron Rodgers is, for as good as he is, in those cold weather games, you need to be able to run the ball. You cannot sit there and chuck the ball 50 to 60 times in that kind of weather and expect to win. So they need to get Ty Montgomery involved. It seems like he is obviously bulked up a little more in the offseason and got his body more prepared for this running back role. So let him run with the rock, man. Mix it up. That way you get that play action game going. Because like I said, if I'm a defense, I'm sitting back and saying as a corner or safety, all right, all we have to do is guard the pass. If you're linebackers,
exactly.
You're not biting on any run fakes because they're not running the ball.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. It's like if you're defending the Washington State Cougars. This is a Washington State offense, Green Bay running right here, just passing the whole time.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that's not going to win you stuff. You can't just be a one-dimensional team and win a championship or even succeed in the playoffs. Like, I wouldn't even give them their first playoff game, depending on who they play, obviously. But, I mean, if they're playing a good defense, I'm giving it to the defense, that team with a good defense. So let's move on, though, to another NFC team that was very good in Week 1 and disappointed in Week 2, and that is your Dallas Cowboys, who were defeated by the Broncos 42-7. I'll just say this to start with. I did not expect the Broncos to, number one, score 42 points in an entire game this season. And number two, shut down Ezekiel Elliott as much as they did in this game. Ezekiel Elliott, 9 carries for 8 yards. Fantasy owners want to kill him this weekend for that. Jared, obviously, you watched the game. I was unable to watch the game because of the stupid LA politics and all the stuff with the TV. You got to watch the Rams and Chargers, so I was not able to watch the entire game. Can you give me a sense of what happened and why the Broncos beat up on the Cowboys so bad?
I don't know if the Cowboys knew they had a game. I think they kind of missed their flight.
Well, at least Ezekiel Elliott didn't.
They might have been playing with replacement players because this team...
scab players.
Was
They're playing
not
with
ready.
scab players. Yeah.
No, they were. Listen, the Denver Broncos are a great team, and obviously their defense is still very much elite.
Unbelievable, yeah.
But and all those 42 points should not go to the offense because I believe they did have a pick six.
Keep Talib, definitely, yeah.
But the Cowboys made Trevor Siemian look like a Pro Bowl quarterback. He was pretty much able to do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. Now, he only passed for 230 yards, which is pretty average by NFL standards, but he threw for 4 touchdowns. I will say the Cowboys were very thin in their secondary. They were already without their starting cornerback Orlando Scandrick, who broke his hand in week 1. He should be back for this week's matchup, but he was missing, so he's a veteran presence that was gone. So they had to lean on another rookie. And then they had Nolan Carroll, who they brought over in free agency. He went out with a concussion. And then they had one of their other rookies go down. So they were very, very thin, playing with 3 or 4 rookies in their secondary. And so I think it was a combination of, just the injury bug that hit them during the game. I think it was a little bit of the altitude, not being used to playing at that mile-high stadium. And like you mentioned, Ezekiel Elliott rushing for only 8 yards in a game, which is almost unheard of for how good of a running back he is and how good of an offensive line this Cowboys team has. The fact that they only rushed for 40 yards as a team and Dak Prescott was your leading rusher with 24 yards is pretty damn ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
now,
bad.
Prescott didn't really have that great of a game himself. He had 2 interceptions, one that got taken back for a touchdown. And I don't want to put all the blame on him, but at a certain point when that running game isn't going, the defense knew they were just going to throw the ball. So that no-fly zone secondary was just chomping at the bit, waiting for Prescott to throw, knowing he was more than likely going to just throw it up to Dez or to give it to Jason Witten. And it was really kind of, came out of whack in the very first quarter. This team did not look good. It was very shocking, obviously, from week 1 when they looked so good offensively and defensively against the Giants. And you figured this game was, going to be kind of the same thing in a sense. And it was really none of that. The Broncos came out and dominated. And right now, the Broncos look like one of the better teams in the NFL, while the Cowboys have a lot of question marks.
Yeah, I'd be definitely scared to face that Denver Broncos defense. But this did show that Dak Prescott, at least in my mind, when the chips all fell and everything went down, he wasn't ready to step up and be that dominant quarterback. And I think that has to have Cowboy fans concerned a little bit, right?
Yes, I understand what you're saying by that. With he wasn't able to, really kind of just take the team by the reins and say, all right, listen, guys, our running game isn't going. I'm about to go Tom Brady right now and just chuck it and sling it. He did have 50 passing attempts, which I'm not sure he's ever gotten to that mark before.
I doubt it.
I don't believe so because the Cowboys usually just do not pass that much. But for me, it actually showed a little bit of guts because I believe it was the second quarter. Dak. He got injured. He hurt his ankle. He got rolled up on, and so I think it was a factor in the rest of the game because I don't think he was quite 100%, and it was his back leg, the leg that he kind of steps through with. So I don't think he was able to get as much power with that back leg. So I think that was a factor. I will say though, he did not quit, in my opinion. Unlike some other players who allegedly...
So you're going to bring this up. I didn't even have to bring it up.
Yes, you did not have to bring this up because I will. There were multiple articles and reports after the game that Jerry Jones and head coach Jason Garrett were not happy with Ezekiel Elliott and some of the other Cowboys players on their lack of effort, especially when the Cowboys turned the ball over, with the offense going down and trying to chase the opponent down.
Yeah, that was a big story.
They were kind of just like giving up in a sense. And Listen, I'm not saying that they did. I'm not saying that they didn't. I guess you just have to go back and watch the tape for yourself. But when those questions are being brought up by the head coach and the owner, they are probably pretty legitimate.
Yeah.
So I think this was. I'm not saying that there's such thing as a bad loss. But for this team, I think this was like a little bit of a gut check. Like, hey guys,
absolutely.
You guys were, being hyped up all summer long, all throughout training camp, saying that you guys have the best offensive line, the best running back, Dak is, the next greatest thing, all this stuff, and you guys come out and got your butts whooped. So I think this is a little bit of a little gut check for this team, and this week, hopefully they come out with a little more fire and energy, because if they play like they did in week 2, the rest of the season, they might as well kiss this season goodbye.
Yeah, well, personally, I hope they do not come out with fire and fury, because the Cowboys will play the Cardinals. We're going to talk about a bet that me and Jared are going to do a little later in the podcast, probably near the end. But let's switch to another NFC team that disappointed, this time for the second straight week. And that was the Giants playing the Lions on Monday Night Football. The Giants' offense, where the hell is it? Where's Eli Manning? Where's the running game? There's nothing. I mean, as much as the Cowboys sucked on Sunday, the Giants once again made it worse on Monday. And the Giants really have not played well on offense. There's blame to go around. I'm personally going to put the blame on that atrocious, terrible offensive line. I mean, some of the videos that are coming out of the offensive line play from the Giants, it's awful. It's like a high school team out there getting dominated by it. It's terrible. Obviously, Eli Manning's not making good decisions either. But when you're constantly rushed, I'm not going to put the blame on the quarterback. I'm going to put the blame on the offensive line. And so this Giants team really needs to figure out what they're doing on offense. They're not going to win many games this season. Another fact: the Lions, who they played, I think the Lions are a little underrated. I think Matthew Stafford is actually playing to his contract a little bit, which we both didn't think was going to happen. And I think this was a measuring stick for both teams. The Lions are going to be a little more legit than we thought, and the Giants are going to be a little worse. Do you agree with me?
I do. Really, to start off about the Giants, I'm going to put most of the blame on head coach Ben McAdoo.
Okay.
He's not only the head coach, he is also the offensive
I agree
coordinator,
with you on that, too.
the one who is calling the plays. So when he's not dumb. He knows that his offensive line is not that good, and he knows that, at least we think he knows that he needs to try to protect that offensive line and have kind of short to intermediate throws for Eli Manning to get the ball out quick. But he seems to be, like in the first quarter, they ran a play where the receiver was supposed to run a double move. Those plays take time to develop. Mm-hmm. You cannot run those types of long developing plays when your offensive line is garbage. You need to run quick throws, slants, outs, those type of things, and then maybe work in a deep ball, a couple times throughout the game. But the fact that they continue to run these long developing routes for their receivers and tight ends, for me, it's showing that Coach Ben McAdoo really doesn't have a grasp, in my opinion, of what he's doing. But he's not protecting Eli Manning. Eli Manning has been sacked more in the first 2 weeks of the season than he was all last year. But I believe it took until week 8 of last year for Eli Manning to get sacked as many times as he's already been sacked in these first 2 weeks. So that just shows right there. I guarantee you yesterday and today that the Giants are probably having open tryouts. And I don't mean for the public. I mean for other NFL free agents.
Yeah. They probably could do it for the public,
line.
too. They probably could find some from the public.
I'm sure they could find some for the public that could come in. Because right now, even though, and speaking on Odell Beckham Jr., even though he did suit up, he said he was about 80%. I believe he had, 2 catches in the game?
It was 4 catches.
4 catches.
I had some of that in garbage time late in the game that nobody noticed.
Yes, it was, but he was a non-factor. And can someone ask, where's Brandon Marshall?
I don't know, but he was talking a lot of crap on people on Twitter because people were giving him stuff on Twitter.
Yeah.
And that's all I saw of Brandon Marshall on Monday night.
Yeah.
On Twitter.
Yeah.
That's horrendous. That's terrible.
2 receptions on the season.
Think about this. I was tied in my fantasy game, and I had nobody to play left. So I lost. I was essentially going to lose. This guy had Brandon Marshall and barely beat me. Brandon Marshall literally almost lost this guy who I played this weekend in fantasy football the game because of how bad he played.
Wow.
So Yeah, we're going to talk crap on him right now because he hasn't shown up 2 weeks in a row. He's had 2 catches the entire season.
1 catch per game.
Yeah, I guess he's just keeping his streak up or whatever. I think he has a streak of like a reception every game he's played or whatever. But this got to stop. I mean, you got to find yourself open, man, or retire or something. Like, it's bad.
I blame a little bit on Eli Manning for not using him a little more in the red zone. He's a big body target. He's not a speed threat. He's more of an intermediate route runner, and you can really throw it up to him, and he's just, because of his body and his size, he can go up and make a play. So I want to blame a little bit on Eli Manning. But yeah, no, he does need to show up more, and he does need to, I don't know, maybe he doesn't know this offense inside and out yet. Maybe he's still learning the offense. But
I mean, how hard is it to learn? They don't do anything.
In training camp and before the season started, on paper, this offense looked like a real big threat.
Yeah.
When you have Eli Manning, the 2-time Super Bowl champ, Odell Beckham Jr., Sterling Shepard, Brandon Marshall, and then you bring in the rookie Evan Ingram as more of a receiving tight end. On paper, this team looked really, really scary, and right now they're anything but that.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you on that. Now, let's transition a little bit because we need to talk about a little bit of AFC teams. Let's talk about the Patriots and Chiefs, but I think we both believe, along with the Broncos, these are some of the best teams in the AFC. So I'll let you take first. What did you think of the Chiefs and Patriots this weekend? Because they both had significant wins.
They did. The Chiefs were actually down against the Philadelphia Eagles for most of the game and had to come back. And I think it showed. The Eagles, in my opinion, are a good team.
They're a solid team.
But for the Chiefs, it showed. I think the Chiefs are one of the most well balanced teams in the NFL, and I think they have probably some of, if not the best depth overall as a team. You know, like they lost Eric Berry in Week 1, obviously, and they were able to just replace him. Mm-hmm. And Kareem Hunt. I think everyone
he might be legit now.
Is kicking themselves for not drafting him, you know, all the other 31 teams in the NFL for not drafting him. And then even in fantasy leagues, I would have loved to have Kareem Hunt on my team right now. This kid looked like an absolute stud. But no, the Chiefs, it really showed for them that they were able to kind of come back and win. And like I said, I think this team right now is probably playing the best football in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't want to say, I think they have the best depth. I don't know if they necessarily have the best just first team talent. I would maybe give that to the Patriots and maybe defensively Denver. But this team right now is very, very tough, and it's going to be, you know, like we talked about earlier for the Raiders, it's going to be tough for them to keep up with this Chiefs team because I don't see this Chiefs team losing more than 4 games this season.
Yeah, it's going to be.
And then for the Patriots, like we mentioned, having that huge loss in Week 1, we knew they were going to come out and get fired up.
Oh, yeah.
And Tom Brady came out, and I believe he threw for 4 touchdowns. And the Patriots said, "Okay, listen, that was a fluke. That's not going to happen again. We're playing the Saints, who have a pretty bad defense." The Patriots put up 20 points in the first quarter. I think that was a statement saying, listen, we're going to come out and kick some ass.
Absolutely. No. I mean, the Patriots, everyone was talking like they were going to have a losing season. I even saw Fox and the NFL's not preseason, their countdown shows say, are the Patriots not going to make the playoffs this year?
Yeah, like the sky's falling.
Yeah, come on, guys. It's the Patriots. What did we expect was going to happen? They were going to lose to the lowly Saints? They were going to let that defense stop them? No. Nobody lets that defense stop them. Seriously, nobody. So the Patriots just showed that they were a playoff team. They're the Patriots again. I don't really have much to say about that besides the fact that they showed us who they really were, and they're a good team. The Chiefs, on the other hand, way more impressed with them. I thought they might have a little bit of a downturn coming in this week because they were going to play a good team again. They played the Patriots last week, and they were going to have a little bit of a slowdown, and they didn't. They won again, and they played in a game where a lot of people thought they would lose because there's a little bit of that rivalry with Andy Reid and all that stuff, and the head coach for the Chiefs too, Doug Peterson. They both were kind of switched teams. But it ended up not mattering, and the Chiefs ended up really impressing. Like you mentioned, Kareem Hunt, great game. The defense showed out enough to win the game, and Alex Smith looked good again. So I look to for the Broncos, Patriots, and Chiefs really to stand out this season in the AFC. And I think it's going to be a fun NFL season because there's a lot of good teams that we didn't expect really showing out. We'll take a break right now. On the other side of this break, we're going to be talking a little LA sports. We're going to be talking about the Rams, Chargers, USC, UCLA, and a little bit of the Dodgers and Angels as well. There's just a lot of storylines. Too many storylines not to let go. We need a little LA segment. So that will be on the other side of this break. This is the Cover 2 podcast on OC Rock Radio.
Clean snap. Good hold. Ball game.
Final score, USC 27, Texas 24.
Look at his eyes right there. They never move. He's going there for sure. Mason Foster undercuts it, and it's ball game. Now you have to use your eyes. The one thing I think Jared Goff needs to improve on, we saw it a couple times in this ball game, is you cannot telegraph where you're throwing the football in this league because the results are disastrous.
On the way. And he missed it.
As emotional of a win as this is for the Miami Dolphins, another devastating loss for the Los Angeles Chargers back-to-back weeks.
Cover 2 podcast on OC Rock Radio. I'm Jared Smith.
And I'm Nick Nenad.
And it is time for a little LA talk, a little
Absolutely.
LA segment. We're going to be talking about, as far as the NFL goes, little Chargers and Rams, talk about USC, UCLA, and then finish it off with some baseball talk with the Dodgers and the Angels. But we want to get started with the Chargers and the Dolphins. And for the second week in a row, the Chargers can't seem to pull it out at the end of the game.
I mean,
Nick,
it's like every game with the Chargers
Yeah,
is down to the wire, and then Phillip Rivers can't get close enough to the end zone, and the kicker can't make the field goal.
good old Phillip Rivers. I don't want to blame it all on
Billy
the kicker.
Rivers.
The kicker's young. He's a rookie.
Younghoe Koo.
Yeah, Younghoe Koo. He had his kick blocked in week
I
1.
feel so bad for him, dude.
And then week 2, he just couldn't execute. So this team is really close. But what are your initial thoughts on the Chargers? Do you think they're a good team that just can't finish? Do you think they're a bad team? What are you thinking?
I think they're an average team that can't finish. I think they're a team that is essentially needs to win these close games. I would expect the Chargers to get killed occasionally and for them not to put up a good performance, but if they do put up a good performance, which they have the last 2 weeks, I'm not saying they put on bad performances, but they need to win these games. I know the game against Denver, the field goal got blocked. Not much you could do about that, especially since they iced the kicker the first time. But this second one, Younghoe Koo need to make this kick, especially after the week before where the same thing happened. You need to make the kick. Now, they iced him, so he did, I believe, make the first one and then missed the second one again. I'm not 100% sure. Did he get iced? I might be thinking about another game.
I didn't get to see.
Well,
the
it
game.
doesn't matter. Nonetheless, you still need to make a kick if you're in the NFL. It wasn't that hard of a kick. It was like 42 yards or something like that. He needs to make it. But I'm going to put a little blame on the offense again. And I think this might be Anthony Lynn not being used to being a head coach. They just 2-minute drives don't seem to be enough to get them close enough and to get them in good positions. So I'm going to put a little blame on Phillip Rivers and the offensive play calling in the 2-minute drives. I think the whole game was just Dolphins have a solid defense. You're not going to score. You're not going to kill them. And the Chargers offense isn't that good. I thought Jay Cutler impressed a little bit. I'll talk about that in a second, but I want to finish on the Chargers. I just think they need to win these close games. They're not going to win too many games this season if they can't win the close ones, because I don't think they're going to be in that many games. They play the Chiefs next week. I'm starting to laugh. I'm going to surprise you on this one. I actually think they'll beat the Chiefs. I think, yeah.
What are you smoking right now?
I don't know. But I just think I think they'll come out. The Chiefs will underwhelm a little bit because I think they can't do much better than they have the last 2 weeks. And I think the Chargers will really gut it out and get the win because they need it. I mean, you can't go 0-3. It is absolutely a must win for the Chargers this early in the season, especially since, and we'll talk about this too, you are the clear second team in this LA market. You didn't sell out the StubHub Center for this game.
Pathetic.
25. I mean, there's more people that go to the Galaxy games in the StubHub Center than the Chargers game. Now, some of that may have to do with the fact that there was $100 parking, which is horrible, Chargers. You can't do that to people. Nobody cares enough to pay $100 parking. I'd rather park at a Jack in the Box and walk. Okay? You can't do that. But nonetheless, you got to get more people there. Give them free tickets. Give a school or something. You know, those little kids that go and they have a class. That shows up to the game, have that go up. I'm getting a little off topic, so I'll let you go. What do you think about the Chargers in that game?
The Chargers, they're. I think you hit it. They're an average team, and they're more than likely going to be able to stick around in most games. But in the end, you're not going to be able to trust them to go down the field and score. And Anthony Lynn, to me, it's Yeah, he does get a little bit of the blame because he is the head coach. And to me, he's more of a running, style coordinator.
Absolutely, yeah.
Philip Rivers obviously wants to go out and chuck the ball and control the offense at the line of scrimmage, be able to make his own checks and that type of thing, and signal out coverages and really just control the game from his own standpoint. And I think Anthony Lynn is trying to put his own stamp on this team and say, hey, listen, we're going to be a controlled offense. We're going to try to run the ball a lot and use Melvin Gordon and Brandon Oliver as a little thunder and lightning. Philip Rivers still put up 331 yards. Yeah, it was a very, very respectable game offensively for him. But like you said, the Dolphins' defense is underrated in my opinion. And for this Chargers team, they don't know necessarily how to finish. I think it's not that they, get down early, like they get blown out.
No, that's what it is. They don't know how to
back.
finish, yeah.
But they just, when the game's on the line, they can't put these offensive drives together. And I think that's going to be their Achilles heel going into the rest of the season. Now, as far as your pick on this upcoming matchup with the Chiefs, like I said, I don't know what you're smoking or what you saw from the Chiefs that makes you think they're going to lose to this Chargers team. I don't care if they're playing in Kansas City and LA. They could be playing in, I don't care, in Mexico. It does not matter. They could be playing in a backyard somewhere. There's zero chance.
Wow, 0 chance.
Okay, I can't say zero because they're professionals. Yeah. I'm going to give them a 1% chance.
I keep banging on the mic.
Yeah, 1% chance that this Chargers team comes out with a victory.
You know what I'm smoking right now? Chargers fever.
A little bit. That was pretty good.
Yeah, you're not giving the Chargers enough clout here. I mean, they haven't played that bad. It's just been the 2-minute drives that really screwed them over in these games. And so I think they could get close enough. I think if they get a good start, they could beat this Chiefs team. I don't think the Chiefs are unbeatable.
No, they're not. They're just clearly a way better
team. They act
like
the Chiefs are Alabama in college football right now.
I mean, they look like it against the Patriots.
This is week 1, a celebration, Mark Wahlberg in a T-shirt. All that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, I'm not trying to purposely hate on the Chargers, even
I think
though we always do.
Yeah.
But I'm hating on the Chargers. But I'm hating on them. I'm sorry. It's just I don't trust them. You can't trust this team to go down and win you ball games.
Well, no, you can't trust the team. I'm trusting them for one game against the Chiefs.
Okay, I'm not saying
they may go 1-15.
I'm not
but
saying
they're beating
the
Chiefs.
Blown out, but they're not going to win. Plain and simple.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
Now let's switch to the Rams. Okay, this is a team that didn't win this weekend. The Rams, they played the Redskins, who I thought came out and really punched them in the mouth early in the game. And I thought it was pretty impressive. The Rams started coming back and made the score a little closer than it was. Floppy arm Jared Goff threw that terrible interception at the end of the game where he literally stared down his receiver and just essentially said, I'm going to throw it to this guy. Hopefully the defense doesn't intercept it. And they intercepted the ball because it was that easy. I mean, this was a game that the Rams could have won, and they didn't because of Jared Goff's play late in the game, including that interception. I thought Todd Gurley had a really good game, a very good play down the sideline.
Finally, we had a Todd Gurley sighting.
I know. The first time since he was at Georgia.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think this Rams team, this is going to be a lot what happens to them this season. I think they're like an 8-8, 7-9 team. I think I said they were going to be 6-10 or something like that in the season. I think they could be a little better than that. They impressed me against a good team. But I like we said last week, they weren't going to play as well as they did against the Colts. And they came out and they clearly did in the first half and didn't have enough, especially with a quarterback like Goff, to do it in the second half, that the Redskins impressed, that the Rams were exactly who the Rams were, about an average team that's going to win about half their games, maybe a little less this season.
Yeah, no, for this Rams team, like you mentioned, the Todd Gurley sighting, that was very nice to see.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't break the 100-yard mark in rushing, he was able to get 88
Not
yards.
that many carries in the game, though.
No, not that many carries, but it was nice to see him in the receiving game as well. He scored 1 receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown, so it was nice to see him get involved. And like you mentioned, the Redskins kind of came out and smacked the Rams in the mouth. Mm-hmm. And I think that was really the difference maker in this game because it was only a 7-point ball game.
Yeah.
So if the Redskins don't come out with that hot start, then I really think the Rams more than likely come out with a victory. But like you said, the interceptions and just the way that the Redskins came out and played originally, the fact that they had 3 players rush for over 50 yards, Kelly, Thompson, and P. Ryan, they all got over 50 yards rushing, 2 in the 70s and P.
And
Ryan.
Kelly got hurt, too.
Yeah, until Kelly did. So I think they had a really balanced offensive attack. And Kirk Cousins didn't have to do much. He only threw for 179 yards, but he had 0 interceptions, which is, usually we're talking about Kirk Cousins throwing 2 or 3 picks. So he was able to manage the game, not turn the ball over. And, when the Redskins can do that, they're going to be competitive and they're going to be in games. So, good for the Redskins, obviously bad for the Rams. And right now we have 2 LA teams that we're not really so sure about. I mean, one team I'm sure about in the Chargers who just suck. This Rams team, it seems like they've got some talent, and obviously they.
You're higher on the Rams than you are on the Chargers?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a change from last year.
If we had a matchup between the Rams and the Chargers, I'm going Rams all day.
So you got Rams fever there.
I got some Rams
fever.
You got Rams
right
fever, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
That's how much of a change is that from last year? Though?
Oh my gosh!
I mean, all it took was the Chargers to move from San Diego and have all their fans hate them.
Yeah.
And move up to LA, and now we like the Rams. It's amazing.
I don't like the Rams. I'm just saying I got a little bit of Rams fever for this week. Who knows? They could come out and.
So you're saying the Rams are going to win Thursday Night Football against 49ers? That's a safe bet.
Yes, I do.
Okay, yeah, see.
Yes, very safe
the Rams
bet.
going to be 2. I'll agree with that. I
on a
think
short week
too.
Against the 49ers?
Yes. So we both believe, I believe both LA teams will win this week. Jared does not. He thinks the Chiefs will blow out the Chargers. So let's move on to a team that actually sells out the Coliseum. The USC Trojans in college football, as the Trojans almost lost to Texas. And I said they were gonna win by 3 touchdowns. I was completely wrong. Most of this game, I was watching the Triple G Canelo Alvarez fight, so I didn't see most of the game. I did see the end in the overtime. So I'll let you talk about the game first, because I think did you see more of the game than I did?
I was able to catch a good chunk of the game, not the entire game.
Yeah.
Really, listen, USC came out with the win. And in college football, yes, it's about winning, but it's also about the style of winning and how you win and how you can impress the committee. But really, I want to give a lot of credit to this Texas team.
Oh, yeah.
The way they're able to travel into the Coliseum. And I don't know, it's something about when Texas comes out, to the West Coast and to California, they just seem to play really, really well. Even though in late stretches of the game they did turn the ball over a couple of times, and that was more than likely the reason why they lost, because they were really in control of this game for the most part. But no, Sam Darnold was able to lead this team back, even though he almost threw for 400 yards. He was 397 to be exact. This USC offense didn't really look that great. For the majority of the game, they weren't really able to get their running game going. Mm-hmm. I think Texas did a great job of kind of keeping this USC team one-dimensional, forcing them to throw the ball, not really getting Stephen Carr and Ronald Jones going. They only combined for less than 70 yards or less than 80 yards.
Yeah.
So when you can do that to this USC team and force Donald to have to throw, even though he is a very excellent quarterback, it's going to be tough for this USC team.
Yeah, that defensive front for Texas played really well.
Yes,
I went back and watched the highlights. They played really well. That's why the running game, I don't think, had much on it. But this just shows you how special Sam Darnold is as a quarterback. Not one bit when they were in overtime, and even late in that fourth quarter, did I think USC was going to lose the game. That's how good he is. I was like, okay, well, Darnold's going to find a way to – it's not going to be Darnold's fault that they lose. And I think – that's what impresses me so much, and I think that's why he's a top 3 in that Heisman right now, because even though they almost lost Texas, and Texas has not had a good start to their season besides this game, he showed he didn't care about all that stuff. We're going to win this game. Great passes to Deontay Burnett, who's their best receiver. That jump pass to Stephen Carr.
Yep.
Was that in the fourth quarter or was that in overtime?
No,
that was fourth quarter drive,
yes.
yeah.
That was a drive to tie the game.
Amazing, right? And then obviously 400 yards and just essentially making us forget that he threw 2 interceptions in the game as well.
Yes.
So great job, Sam Darnold. This USC team, I'm not sure who they play next. I know who UCLA plays
They play
next.
at Cal.
Oh, at Cal. Okay, now I'll tell you this right now. This is a surprising game. This is one of those games where USC, although they almost did this against Texas, where I think they might have a little trouble with California. I mean, California is a new coach. It's in Berkeley. It's a 12 o'clock start.
Yeah.
I think this might be a game where you could see USC get upset, and that's why I think they really need to pay attention to this.
Yeah, Cal was riding high. They had a good win against Ole Miss last week, so I think their spirits are high right now. So, yeah, no, this is – I don't want to call it one of those trap games, because I think Cal's a decent team. But no, USC, they can't come in here and think they're just going to run over this Cal team.
And they shouldn't, because they almost lost. The Texas game was a trap game.
Yes.
It ended up being. So they have Cal and Washington State coming up next. Those are two games where if they can win those, the schedule gets slightly easier after that, but they really need to win these next two games because I think, when the team is always winning these games, there's these games where you go up to Pullman or you go up to Berkeley and you might end up losing it. It's happened in the past. So hopefully it doesn't happen for USC. But impressive game, once again, from Sam Darnold and USC to pull out the win. They're 3-0, and I believe they moved down one. They're ranked number 5.
Yes.
Let's move to UCLA, who, in my opinion, had the most disappointing game of the college football week.
Oh, boy.
The UCLA, and there was some upsets, too. Actually, I'm going to take that back because I'm going to talk about a team when we talk about college football that's been disappointing every week and still ranked. But I'll take that back. They had the second worst showing of the weekend, and that was UCLA losing to Memphis in the Liberty Bowl, 48-45. There are so many flaws with this UCLA team that I think a lot of people are seeing now. I think we all gave them a pass because they came back against Texas A&M. Great for them. Then they killed Hawaii, which they should have, and they go into Memphis and they lose. Josh Rosen down the stretch did not show he was a clutch quarterback like he did against Texas A&M through some horrible passes.
Oh boy.
Against Memphis. Some right two guys throwing behind him. It just wasn't good. And I'm not going to put the blame 100% on Rosen. I think he actually deserves the least blame out of the running game and the defense, which has just been atrocious all 3 games of this season. And people, like I said, have been giving them a pass because they were 2-0. This team needs to figure out how to start a running game. You can't put all of it on Josh Rosen. Okay? He's going to make mistakes when literally you never can run the ball. And I just think this UCLA team, who had so much promise, they could have gone 3-0 against a team in Stanford that's now shown they're not as good as people thought either. They could have started the season easily 4-0, and now they're going to start the season potentially 2-2 because of how bad this defense in the running game is.
Yeah, listen, looking at the numbers, Rosen threw for 463
yards.
Yeah,
not a bad game besides those 2 passes.
Yes, and it was those 2 passes, and I think, like you said, the late game execution, just another one of those teams that you can't really trust down the stretch. Listen, I'm not trying to dig here on Memphis. Memphis put up 48 points. That should not happen at all.
Memphis is a good team, but they're not a team that should be beating UCLA.
Not at all. Not in the slightest. UCLA should have been able to come in here and more or less dominate this Memphis team. And the fact that they didn't, they're lucky to still be in the top 25, in my opinion. The way that they looked against Texas,
they're not. That's a ranking that was from last week. They're not. They didn't even get a single vote.
Wow.
Which I thought was surprising. They gave Memphis votes, but they didn't give UCLA votes. But UCLA didn't get a single vote in the AP poll.
Okay, that's shocking. A little breaking news for me because I did not know that. But going back to the game, listen, and for this team, they haven't looked impressive at all. Like we mentioned, great for them to come back against Texas A&M in Week 1. You're supposed to kill Hawaii, which they did, and then you lose to Memphis. So really, I'm not impressed by this team at all. Like you said, they haven't
not anymore. I'm not. Yeah,
nope, not at all. I have not really seen much. Really, Josh Rosen is really the only player on this team who I'm kind of excited to watch because of his potential in the NFL. More than likely going to declare for the NFL next year. I think he obviously has a lot of work to do in a lot of areas to grow in. But other than that, I don't really know why I want to watch this UCLA team play. They can't stop anybody.
Yeah.
And offensively, you don't know what you're going to get. You might get a 400-yard performance from Rosen, and they might put up 30, 40 points, or they might come out and put up 17 points.
Yeah.
You never really know. That consistency factor is not there for this team, and I know that it's early, and I know that we're only going into Week 4, but I think by this point, you have to be able to say, okay, we're trying to find our identity, and we have an idea of where we're going. For this UCLA offense, I don't think they've found that yet. I don't know who they are. I don't think they know who they are. And I think that's kind of a bad recipe, especially when you're in the Pac-12 that is very competitive with USC, Washington State, and then other teams like Cal, Oregon.
Oregon's good this year,
and
too.
Listen, Stanford, they're not the team that we maybe thought they were,
but still good.
They're still no slouch. So for this UCLA team, it's only going to get tougher for them.
Jim Mora has never beat Stanford as a coach of UCLA. What happens if he doesn't beat Stanford again?
He's fired.
I think so, too. I think he's gonna get Lane Kiffin on the plane back.
Oh boy,
On the tarmac.
That's pretty
They're gonna
bad.
leave him. They're gonna leave him at San Francisco International Airport or Oakland International Airport, whatever airport they take to get to Berkeley. They're gonna leave him there, and they're gonna be like, Jim Mora, find your way home. We'll give you your $10 million. Get the hell out of here.
Really?
Yeah.
Just like that.
I think that's what happens.
Okay.
Now, I think that's what happens if they lose. I actually don't think they'll lose. I think they'll beat Stanford. I think they'll come back because of the desperation with Jim Moore and the rest of the team. I think they know what they did this week. I think they'll come back. But so let's transition to baseball. It's coming down the stretch. Only 2 weeks to go. I heard last night 12 games to play in the MLB season for at least the Angels. I'm not sure about Dodgers. It's got to be similar to that. The Dodgers have already clinched a playoff spot and are about 1 or 2 wins away from claiming the NL West. So we'll talk about the Angels first, who are 1.5 games out of the wild card. They've stayed in it enough, and they essentially got to win most of these last few games. They've added Justin Upton during the season. Luis Valbuena, CJ Cron have stepped up for the Angels. But Jared, give me what they have to do in order to get into that wild card, or specifically this week to just beat the Indians and the good teams they're going to face this week.
Pitching and defense. And I think we can, at least with myself, we can go back to years past. I've been saying this for years. This team offensively and on paper should be able to score consistently 4, 5, 6 runs a game.
Absolutely. It's got a great lineup.
It's always been the pitching that has been their Achilles heel and has always let them down. You don't know what you're going to get on a nightly basis. First of all, their pitching and the staff has not been able to stay healthy. They are somewhat healthy now with Richards and Skaggs coming back. Shoemaker's there as well. Shoemaker, to me, has been one of the biggest roller coasters because he will come out in one game and throw 8 innings of 1 or 2 runs, and then he'll come out the next outing and he's only there for 3 or 4 innings and he gives up 6 or 7. So it's just, I don't know who you can really trust on this team as an ace to say, hey, listen, we need a win. We need you to go out and be on the mound for at least 7, 8 innings. And the fact that I don't think you can trust that pitching and that defense is why I don't think this team is going to end up making the playoffs. The
interesting.
fact that, listen, they may not come out and say it down in the locker room. They're definitely watching what Minnesota's doing.
You have to.
The fact that Minnesota lost and has been more or less
Well,
losing.
they've lost the first 2 games of the series against the Yankees.
Against the Yankees, the Angels have not been able to capitalize. And I know they're playing the Indians, who are a very good team. But in this type of desperation, I think they need to come out with a little more firepower. I mean, to only score 3 runs and only have 7 hits, I don't think they got their first hit till the 3rd or the 4th inning. So, when you've got Trout and Pujols, who obviously has lost a lot, but he can still hit the ball. CJ Cron has been a big surprise.
Absolutely.
After kind of getting...
He got sent down twice.
Yeah, he's got sent down twice, and I think that was a little bit of an eye-opener for him to say, I need to set my game up or else I'm going to be sent down for good. So he's been kind of a power threat for this team, which has been much needed. Luis Valbuena been doing very well. Justin Upton finally showing a little bit of power. One of the reasons why this Angels team brought him in the first place.
Yeah.
They also picked up Brandon Phillips, who's kind of
I
been
forgot about Brandon Phillips.
who's been leading off for this team in that number 1 spot. So listen, they have the pieces offensively, at least. It's just, can you rely on their pitching? Is their pitching going to show up when it matters? And right now, I don't think we can say that.
That's a very good point. I do believe they'll end up being the wild card team because I think the Twins are a young team, and I don't think they'll be able to win those late games, especially the last week, because they're already proving they can't beat the Yankees. The Yankees have handily beat them the first 2 games of this series. Again, the podcast is being recorded on Wednesday, so if you're listening on another day, they may have done something else, but we're just talking about the first 2 days of the series. The Twins are showing that they're not beating good teams, at least right now. And I think that the young roster they have, guys like Byron Buxton, Max Kepler, and their pitcher Jose Barrios, I think those are the kind of guys that aren't going to be able to live up to the pressure. I think the Angels have a lot more veterans that will get them there. I think the hitting actually can just get them into the wild card game. As far as that goes, the wild card game, the pitching might come into play. I'm not going to make a prediction or anything. I do believe they'll make it. I don't know what they'll do once they get there.
Okay.
Yeah. So now let's move on to Dodgers. We got about 2 minutes left in the segment. Dodgers, obviously, they're about to kind of do what they need to do. They're obviously about to win the NL West. They more than likely will win the number 1 seed. But do you see their 11-game losing streak about a week ago affecting them going into the playoffs? Do you think that hurt their psyche a little bit after their really, really good start?
No, not at all. I think it was one of those things where they might have just got a little bored late in the season, and I don't like to say that because these are professionals, and I think they all understand the magnitude of these games. And even though there are 160, you're not going to win them all. The fact that they were so dominant in the first half of the season and they had such a huge lead, I think it's only human nature sometimes to just take your foot off the gas pedal a little bit and just, so I think it was one of those things where maybe they weren't trying as hard, or, maybe they just wanted to make sure they were getting healthy and, maybe not taking that risk diving for a ball, or you know what I mean? I think what they want to do is just make sure that they get to the playoffs healthy, and then, they think they can turn it on. The only problem with that is, can you do that whole turn it off, turn it on thing where, all right, we haven't been playing the best lately. That thing called momentum is something that I think is very key. And if you don't have that going into the playoffs, once you get into the playoffs, your regular season record does not matter anymore.
No, it doesn't.
It's win or go home in a sense. And obviously, from we've seen in years past, Kershaw, this is really where he needs to shine because he has not shown up for this Dodgers team in the playoffs. And for as good of an offensive team as they are, Kershaw needs to be the man. And he needs to show up.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think the rest of the starting rotation is a little different this year. I think they're better. And I do think this team, like you said, I agree with you. I don't think this losing streak will affect them. It's just a matter of who they play. And I think that Diamondbacks matchup might be a little dicey for them if the Diamondbacks can indeed get past the wild card game. They might not even make it. So interesting stuff. A lot of LA stuff going on. We had to do an entire segment about it because there was too much to talk about. On the other side of this break, though, we're going to play a game that we both like to play. And it's called Do You Care?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be talking boxing. We're going to be talking baseball. A little basketball news, especially with Kyrie Irving. And much, much more. So on the other side of this break, Do You Care?
Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards after 12 rounds of boxing. Adelaide Bird scores it 118 to 110 for Canelo. Dave Moretti scores it 115-113 for Triple G. And Don Trella scores it 114-114, a three-way split. This is officially a draw.
Stanton drives it. Left center field and deep. 55. In the blink of an eye.
Let me go someplace else. Did you speak to LeBron James or talk to LeBron James before you and your representatives met with ownership and let them know that you wanted out?
No.
Why not?
Why would I have to?
I'm not saying, no. I'm not implying that you have to at all.
Yeah.
But he's the best player in the world. He's a superstar. He's considered the leader of the team. Your teammate, who you speak glowingly and very highly about. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to play there anymore, even though it was a personal decision, chances are, if you don't speak to somebody about it, they might take it personally.
Yeah.
Do you care about that at all?
No.
It's his future, his life.
Coming to you podcast. We are back here live from the OC Rock Radio studio at Saddleback College. Jared, you know what time it is, right?
What time is it, Nick?
It's time for Do You Care? It's time for Do You Care, guys.
Oh boy, had to step away from the mic so we didn't blow.
I smashed into a box when I was
bit.
doing that, too. I think I just broke a bunch of CDs.
Yeah. Didn't bust my eardrum, so that's okay.
Because that's how excited I think I did, right? I did.
Almost.
Not the best day to do that either, right?
Nope. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Okay, so enough of that. So it's time for Do You Care? This is the game where we ask each other if we care about what we ask the other person. So it's a range of stories. Most of the stuff, well, no, all of it we haven't talked about yet, so you're not going to hear the same stuff. And I'll start with this, Jared. Do you care that Kyrie Irving didn't call LeBron?
No, I don't care because I don't feel that he needed to call LeBron. I think that their friendship off the court was not the greatest. And yes, from a I guess teammate standpoint, It would have been nice of him to do that. Kind of, be the better man and just say, hey, listen, this is what I'm thinking about, or this is what I'm doing. Just kind of keeping you in the loop so you don't have to find out through the media. But did he, have to say something to LeBron, or did he feel obligated to? No, obviously not, because he didn't. And now, obviously, it's the talk of the town, and everyone's saying, oh, well, what was going on behind the scenes, and LeBron was really pissed when he first found out. And Kyrie is kind of just sitting back like, hey, listen, this was my choice. This is what I wanted to do. I feel that I needed to get out of that situation and take my game to another city, another team, to where I can be more involved. Yep. And that's what he did. He seems happy. He seems content. And let's play some basketball now. LeBron is going to go do his thing. Cleveland's still going to be a good team. I think Kyrie is going to help the Celtics a little more than Isaiah Thomas would. And the fact that Kyrie is healthy and Isaiah Thomas is not healthy, so that automatically helps the Celtics. Listen, at the end of the day, Kyrie needs to be happy. And right now it seems like he is. And he was not in Cleveland. So good for him.
I'll tell you this real quick, even though this was your question. I had a dream last night that I was watching the Celtics play the Cavaliers with Isaiah on the Cavs and Kyrie on the Celtics, and the Celtics killed the Cavs. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. For some reason, I had a dream of little Isaiah playing Kyrie Irving and getting smacked around and them getting killed. I just wanted to let that know.
Okay.
Put that out there, yeah.
Sweet dreams.
Thank you,
Sweet dreams, bro.
Thank you so much for that.
Sticking with basketball, Nick, do you care about Kevin Durant's Twitter account?
I don't care. This has to do with him subtweeting fans through his own account. What I mean by that is he essentially, Kevin Durant I'm talking about, has created another Twitter account to defend himself, like most millennials these days, I guess, and decided to not log out of his account and do this tweet like he was another person from his actual Kevin Durant blue check account. It's stupid. He came out and said that it was stupid. He said he shouldn't have called out his teammates like that. I don't know why Kevin Durant cares so much about what people think about him. Dude, you're a villain. You joined the Warriors. You joined the best team in the league to only win a ring. You got your ring. People hate you. People aren't going to like you. You saw what happened with LeBron. Why do you think that that's not going to happen to you? Why did you think that people were just going to like you? You know what I'm saying? That since you went to the Warriors. It doesn't make any sense. It's dumb. Durant, stop answering fans on Twitter. Because, to be honest, they're just trying to become famous so they can retweet your tweet and say, oh, my God, Kevin Durant responded to me and all that. And you don't have to answer because it doesn't matter. It's just what you do on the court. So stop answering people and get rid of that stupid fake Twitter account, too. It's ridiculous. Jared, do you care that Andrew Bogut signed with the Los Angeles Lakers?
No, I don't. Bogut, he's a big body guy, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And until he can do that and prove that he can be a reliable source for this team, I'm not sure what this move is really about. I understand that the Lakers definitely need more big bodies. They brought in Brook Lopez, who I think is a very, very good center.
No more Mozgov.
I think that's been one of the Lakers' problems in the last couple of years, is they haven't really had that dominant low post guy. Not to say that Brook Lopez is predominantly in the post, because he can step out and shoot, but they haven't had a center that they can really rely on for the majority of the season and say, hey, we need you to go out and get 20 and 10 and then go down on the defensive end and stop someone. So I think it's a good a good thing if he can stay healthy. I don't trust that he can stay healthy. So for me, it's kind of a wait and see approach. If he pans out, he pans out. If not, it's only a 1-year deal, and I'm sure they can get rid of him pretty easily. Nick, do you care, switching over to a little baseball talk, that Giancarlo Stanton has 55 home runs?
I definitely care about this. Giancarlo Stanton, 55 home runs, about 12 games ago in the season, so he could hit 6 more to tie Roger Maris. To be honest, if he were to break Roger Maris's record of 61 home runs in the season, he would be the cleanest guy to have the most home runs in a season. He all the rest of the guys that beat Roger Maris's record all had taken steroids or have all been caught taking steroids. So essentially, Giancarlo Stanton might have the best season of all time as far as home runs go if he can get to 62. I'm intrigued by that. I think Stanton's a good guy. I don't think he's on steroids, although he looks like it. But he doesn't look like he's always looked like that.
Oh,
That's what I'm trying
jacked.
to say. So
He's
he's jacked. He looks like a professional wrestler out there. So I'm very intrigued. I hope he gets to 62, and I hope he's the guy that breaks that record, and you could put an asterisk next to his name and say this guy might actually be the home run king for one season. Jared, do you care that Lawrence Simmons, defensive lineman, or actually linebacker for the Miami Dolphins, didn't show up to their game on Sunday?
I don't care. I care for him and his safety. It seems like he's going through some type of personal issue right now, and I have not been able to or read any articles where they have, gone into detail as of why. Allegedly, he just did not show up to the facilities last week. Kind of MIA, didn't really tell any of the coaches or players or anyone like that. And then he came back to the team on Saturday, and I'm sure they sat down and spoke with him. And then I believe it was just yesterday the Miami Dolphins decided to suspend him. So it's a very kind of interesting situation because there's not a whole lot of info to talk about right now. So I don't really care, but I hope for his safety and his well-being that he is okay. It seems like he's obviously dealing with something, so hopefully he can work out whatever issue he has going on and then decide if he wants to come back to football, because to be able to play a sport or really, do anything at 100%, you have to have a clear mind. And right now it seems like he has other things going on in his mind. So if he needs to step away from the game and deal with his own personal issues, then he should do that. But when he steps back on that field, hopefully he can be 100%, because if not, that's how you get injured, when you're not focusing on what you're supposed to do. So hopefully he can get it together and get back on the field, because when he's healthy, he's played most of his career with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's been a very, very dominant linebacker. So I'm sure the Miami Dolphins would love to have him back. Nick, last question, and I purposely saved this for last.
Yeah.
Triple G Canelo, a draw?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
No, I care. I care about this. We're both going to talk about this.
Yes, we are. I didn't even have to say, do you care?
No, because
all I had to say
obviously
was draw.
How is that a draw? How did that judge score it 118 to 110? Horrendous.
Was she drinking while she was doing the scorecard?
I think she gambled too much in Vegas. She made a bet with somebody and said, hey, I screwed up. I lost a lot of money. I need some money, so I'll screw over the boxing match. Probably got with Canelo's guys and with the Tecate beer, and we're like, we're going to make I almost said Catate.
Wow.
Yeah.
A little bit.
God, terrible.
Feeling okay?
Yeah. I got Chargers fever, remember?
Okay.
Yeah. But so we're talking about Adelaide Bird, the judge who was one of the three judges in the Canelo Alvarez Triple G boxing match this Saturday. She scored the match at 118 to 110 Canelo Alvarez, and I'm still finding enough rounds for Canelo to win, because Canelo did not win enough rounds for her to give him that score. He did win some rounds. Triple G was consensus around most boxing analysts as the winner of the fight, although another boxing judge did give it a literal draw. He gave it a 114 to 114. And the other judge only gave Triple G the match by 2 points, 115 to 113. Triple G, the 118 to 110 should have been for Triple G. And that's what should have got Triple G the win. Canelo Alvarez did not deserve to win a round, maybe by more than one round. Like, I had 12 rounds, he only could have won 7, and that's still hard for me to figure out. I don't understand how it happened. I watched the entire fight, and especially in the middle rounds, Triple G dominated. I don't think Canelo won too many rounds. I don't understand how this ended up being a draw, but it is, and this gives the chance for a rematch, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that was the biggest takeaway for me was a rematch. The fact that they want to make more money off this fight, and they're going to make more money. So as tough as it is to sit here and say that, I think that's what it really comes down to. I'm still in shock by the draw. I would love to sit down and speak with this.
Triple G was 37-0, and now he's not. Now he has a draw on his record.
Yeah.
That's what's most terrible about this.
It is.
You know, I would be fine too. Triple G wins, right? And maybe I would still have Canelo have another rematch. You know, let's see if Canelo can get a little better and beat him. Because if Canelo wasn't that off, I shouldn't say that Canelo got killed, but he definitely didn't win the fight. You know, I think the best case scenario was that he drawed, and that's what they did for him.
Yeah. No, it was. I did not get to watch the fight, which is why I'm leaning a little bit more on you right now. But just seeing some of the highlights, obviously. Looking at the scorecards afterwards, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And I think that's where a lot of people are left right now with this like empty feeling of where did that scorecard come
Where
from?
$80 go?
What boxing match were you watching? And I think people just want an explanation, really. Why did you score it that way? And at the end of the day, I think we all know that a rematch is coming, which not to say that, we all wanted. I mean, I'm sure we're all going to watch again.
Yeah.
But we would have liked to seen a clear winner, which I'm sure we probably could have seen if it was scored correctly.
Absolutely. No, a very interesting fight, and the rematch will be good, but there's always that chance that there's corruption again, because there's been corruption in the last couple fights in boxing, not counting the Mayweather-McGregor one. So that's the end of Do You Care? On the other side of this break, we'll do our last segment. We're going to be talking college football, as we haven't talked about that yet. We talked about USC and UCLA earlier, but we're going to switch to everything else besides those two teams. On the other side of this break, this is Cover 2 podcast on OC Rock Radio.
Well, Coach, you're singing here in the end zone on an emotional night for you and your players. How did this happen so decisively against a good LSU team?
Well, they're an unbelievably talented football team. We knew that. But coming in, we thought we got a pretty good football team, too. We had to come execute, play really hard. We've done that the first couple games. I thought we played really hard tonight. I thought we executed at a high level. And obviously this SEC West atmosphere right here is what it's all about. All this student body all back here helped us get that win.
And having said that, you can hear a collective sigh of relief knowing they're not going to be playing any option teams soon.
There's Etienne. And breaks a couple of tackles. Look out, he's a sprinter. Boy. Shades of things to come. Welcome to college football. Travis Etienne. I just had a sense he was going to bust out late.
An embarrassment of riches.
Cover 2 podcast back on OC Rock Radio. Here for the final segment of the show, talking a lot of college football. Nick, we had some upsets.
Oh, yeah.
Some last-minute Hail Marys.
Yep.
And some
defense on those Hail Marys.
Bad defense on those Hail Marys, definitely. So we're going to get right into it. I want to start with Clemson and Louisville.
Oh, yeah, big game.
And get your thoughts on Clemson kind of pretty much dominating Louisville and giving the former Heisman Trophy winner a lot of fits. What do you think?
Well, Clemson proved they were top 5 team this weekend. Louisville, in all seriousness, I thought initially during the season they were going to be a Final Four team. Once I saw that they were literally only Lamar Jackson, I kind of changed my opinion on that. Louisville is too much of a one-man team. Lamar Jackson does too much for them to beat a team like Clemson. That's why they lost, and they're probably going to struggle against the North Carolinas and the or not North Carolina, my bad, the Florida States in that division too, just because you can't do it with one guy. Clemson, just their defense again. Showed out. They didn't let a touchdown. They let one touchdown in the first quarter and then didn't let another touchdown to the fourth. Just a dominant performance. They scored every quarter. Even their backup running backs, which you probably heard the quote we just played, even the backup running backs were dominating Louisville's defense. So Clemson with an all-out show. Again, they're proving that they're going to try to be that top ACC team, and it's hard to fight against that, having Florida State and Louisville below them.
Yeah, no, it is really, to me, I think this was more about Louisville, not as much about Clemson.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it showed that, Louisville came out the previous week and we were able to dominate North Carolina. But I think it showed that maybe Louisville isn't as good of a team as we thought.
I know.
And they were ranked 14th. They're obviously going to go down a little bit from that. But yeah, listen, just because you have Lamar Jackson on your team isn't everything. Now he does do a lot, and he can give you 6 touchdowns a game and throw for 300 yards and run for another 100. But if the rest of the team doesn't show up like I don't think they did against Clemson, this team isn't going to be able to go anywhere. They're not going to be in the top 4. They'll make a bowl game, but the end goal is to make that top 4, which right now I definitely don't see. And for Clemson, I think this whole season was about how do you replace your stars? You lose, obviously, Mike Williams. You lose Deshaun Watson. How does Coach Dabo Swinney come in and say, okay, who are we going to replace these guys with? How are we going to keep up our top 5 status? And who are we gonna bring in? And so far, I think they've done an excellent job of that, being able to still be very competitive, put up the 40, 50-point games, and really in the ACC, when you think about it, it's them, Florida State, who at the beginning of the year was definitely in the running, but now that they lost their quarterback, I don't think they're going to be much of a factor anymore.
No.
So you're looking at Clemson. I think Miami is a really good team.
Miami is the one team.
A little bit of a sleeper. I don't think a lot of people are talking about them. But Clemson really has control of this ACC.
Well, can you pull up the standings in the ACC real quick on your computer? Because I want to see who's in Clemson's division. I know Florida State is. I just want to see who else they could play that's in their division. So Miami is, well, Virginia Tech's a pretty good team too.
They are.
So Virginia Tech and Miami are the only 2 teams that might cause fits for Clemson the rest of this season. Because Clemson, I do believe will beat Florida State. I do believe they've already beaten Louisville. They'll beat the rest of the teams in the division. And that's why Louisville, it's going to be hard for them. Unless they run the table and Clemson loses 2 games, it's going to be hard for them to get back in that Final Four.
Very true.
But I do think Clemson more than likely will play Virginia Tech or Miami in that ACC championship game. I think that's a good game. I think both those teams will struggle against Clemson, but those are pretty evenly matched teams.
They are solid teams. I do think Clemson has the edge.
They definitely
as far as
have
talent.
the edge, yes.
And so I would expect Clemson to win, but I would not expect any type of blowout. I think Virginia Tech has a very, very strong defense. Miami, on the other hand, is, I think, a little more offensive heavy as far as talent-wise goes. So both of these teams will be able to give Clemson a fight, but in the end, I do expect Clemson to come out of it. Now, I'm not saying that, nor do I think Clemson will be in the top 4 playoff teams, but coming out of the ACC, I do believe this is
Clemson better hope that a lot of these teams they're beating end up being good by the end of the season, because I think out of all the conferences, the ACC might be the worst. The Power 5 conference.
Debatable.
Yeah, it's debatable, but I think what I'm saying, though, is if these teams start losing, let's say if no other team other than Clemson has more than 2 wins, has less than 2 losses, I think it's going to be hard to put Clemson in that top 5, especially if there's a USC or a Washington in there. The Big 12 has shown that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are legit teams. The SEC obviously will have Alabama more than likely, or anybody that beats Alabama that's a good team. So that's what I'm saying. And then, of course, you have the Ohio States and the Michigans and all them. So I think it's going to be hard for some of these ACC teams to get in if their conference doesn't play up to par.
Very true. No, that's a very, very good point. Moving on, I know you've been waiting to talk about
I've been waiting since Saturday.
Certain Big Ten team, a Michigan team who did beat Air Force by a score of 29-13. Michigan probably should have beat them by a little more, but I can just tell by the look on your face that you want to get something off your chest. So I'm going to give the mic to you, and the floor is yours.
I've been waiting since Saturday to do this.
Oh, boy.
Okay? Why is Michigan ranked so damn high? Why are they number 7? They beat a undermanned Florida team that they literally could barely beat Tennessee. They had to throw a Hail Mary. They struggle against Cincinnati, the Bearcats, and then they struggle against Air Force. What is the Air Force isn't good? They're good at being the Air Force. They're not good at football. This team shouldn't be number 7. Okay? Why we're only ranking them this high because of their roster and because their coach wears khakis and his name is Jim Harbaugh, and he's a crazy dude. This is typical bias AP poll stuff that I'm sick of. I hope the committee, if let's say Michigan ends up being pretty good later this season and has a good record, hopefully the committee sees what I see. Michigan should not even be in the top 10. There are numerous teams that are below them that could easily beat them. Okay? I mean, there's so many I'm not even going to go on and name them. There's a lot of Pac-12 teams that could beat them. There's a lot of ACC teams that could beat them. And they're number 7. Okay? It doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't understand if a team is barely beating bad competition, why they should be still ranked number 7. It's because of their head coach. And I think it's biased. I want to know if you kind of think of a similar thing.
You know, here's the thing with Michigan. I think they're a defensive-minded team. Now, only putting up 29 points against Air Force, I think that's they should have
They
been
only
able to
put up like 32 against Cincinnati too.
Yes. So offensively, I don't think they're as good as they were last year. Defensively, I think they are, even though they did lose Jabril Peppers and
Big
a couple,
loss.
and a couple corners.
Charlton.
Yes, Taco Charlton. I think defensively, they are going to be able to stay in games because of that. The reason I don't think Michigan will end up being in the top 4 anymore is because of their offense and because of the way they played against Air Force.
Yeah.
Like you said, teams like Clemson, teams like Oklahoma, obviously Alabama, I think can handle this team. And even though it would be tough to score, I don't think they would have to worry as much about Michigan's offense. Now, I'm not saying that the Michigan's offense is scrubs, because they're definitely not. They have talent. But I would not trust this team in a 2-minute situation, with their back against the wall to drive 80 yards and score a touchdown.
No, I agree with you on that too. I'm just saying I think that these people are keeping them at number 7 just in case they do sneak by one of these good teams. They're trying to keep them higher so that if they win certain games, they'll get into the Final Four. I don't think that's the way you should do it. I think it should be based completely on your play. And their play is not shown to be the number 7 team in the nation.
Very true.
Now, I don't think Ohio State, who's number 8, should necessarily be there either. I think Ohio State is another one of those teams that's overrated, and it's just being put there so that a Big Ten team can get into the Final Four.
Yeah, underachieved.
Yeah, and so obviously if Michigan comes out and kicks everybody's ass for the rest of the season, they should be in the Final Four. But right now, put their ranking lower because that's not how good they are.
Yeah.
That's just my gripe. It's not really much about the entire game. It's just my gripe about why they're ranked so
I thought you were about
high.
to go all Stephen A. Smith on him for a minute.
Well, what do you think I was going to do?
A little bit.
I was going to start yelling at him like he yells at LeVar
Something
Ball.
like that. The way you started that, I was like, oh boy, I backed up for a minute.
I calmed it down.
Okay, you did. You
did back up though. Your chair moved back.
Yeah, I backed up for a little bit. I was like, oh boy, I'm going to let Nick go off.
Yeah. What I'm saying is Big Ten's overrated, except for Penn State. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, because Wisconsin played BYU, and they're not that good either. Okay, all these teams playing defense, they
hating on.
I'm
the Big
hating
Ten.
on the Big Ten.
It's okay.
Yeah,
Something wrong with that.
I'm a Pac-12 fan, man. Like that. We play them in the Rose Bowl every year. Those Big Ten teams.
Yes, we do.
I can't be cheering for these teams. Okay, so now let's go to a couple upsets. We'll start with this one because this one wasn't as good as the other one that happened. But Vanderbilt beating Kansas State. Obviously, most people wouldn't have picked this to happen. Vanderbilt winning 14-7. I think this shows that Vanderbilt is a lot better than they've been the last couple of years. I actually wore a Commodores Vanderbilt shirt. My dad went to Vanderbilt, so in honor of their upside, I did wear a Vanderbilt Commodores t-shirt to the studio today.
Go Vanderbilt, 3-0.
Absolutely. They're 3-0. I don't think they should be ranked or anything like that, but I think Vanderbilt will put some pressure on a lot of these SEC teams. It's too bad they play in Alabama and LSU's division and Mississippi State's. So they're probably not going to win too many of those big games. But this is a big thing. They beat Kansas State, who was ranked 18. Kansas State coming in with a lot of hype about their offense, and Vanderbilt shut them down. They got a good defense. They have a good quarterback that's a second-year quarterback. Reminds me a lot of Jordan Rodgers when he was there. They have a quarterback that will make them legit. Hopefully this one doesn't end up on The Bachelor like Jordan Rodgers did. Because that guy, well, actually, he might want to do that because then you'll get a job at ESPN. So that was a big upset. Great for Vanderbilt. Just wanted to shout them out a little bit because my dad went there and they've been miserable for most of the time I've watched them in my entire life, and it's good to see them upset a team, especially defensively handle a team.
Yes.
14-7. But the other upset, which was probably the most concerning of all the upsets, was Mississippi State's upset of number 12 LSU, 37-7. This is a blowout by the Bulldogs. LSU reminds me a lot of Michigan. They're overhyped every year because of their name and the certain players they have. Okay? LSU should not be ranked number 25. Okay? When you get killed by a non-ranked team, you don't stay in the rankings. You go out. For example, UCLA got beat by Memphis. Now, I know they were 25, but for them to not get a single vote is pretty amazing. How does LSU stay in? Because they're LSU and they're in the SEC. I think this is another way of them putting LSU in the rankings so that if they win certain games against SEC opponents, they can stay in the route and maybe make another bowl or make the Orange Bowl or something like that. Again, do you agree with me on this? And how disappointing is LSU?
I do agree to a certain extent. I think this was not a trap game, but I think it was one of those situations.
A lot of people said they were probably going to lose this game.
These two teams play each other almost every year. Yeah. They're in the same conference. They know each other a little. Mississippi State knows LSU better than most teams. So I'm not giving LSU a pass, but it's not completely shocking that Mississippi State came in and won. They played at home. Like I said, they play this team almost every year, if not every year, at least every other year. And Mississippi State, to me, is somewhat of an underrated team. I think they're very well balanced. Obviously, offensively, putting up 37 points against an LSU defense that, to me, is ranked in the top 10 as far as strongest defenses go. But really, you have to give credit to this Mississippi State team. I think it was more about what Mississippi State did than LSU, not being a good team. I think they just, unfortunately, it was one of those weeks where it just didn't come together. I still think they should be ranked in the top 25. They're definitely going to get bumped down. They're more than likely going to be 22, 23, something like that.
They're 25. Yeah.
But I agree with them staying in the top 25 because I think they're going to come out the rest of the season and show that they belong. The problem that I have had with LSU going back years and years is they have always been able to get defensive talent. They have not been able to secure a caliber quarterback or a starting caliber
who they remind me of?
Quarterback.
The Houston Texans.
Really?
A lot like that. Besides, now Sean Watson might be the guy now, but it's a team that's always been good at defense, but can never get a quarterback.
Yeah, they have all these weapons on the outside. They've got all these running backs, and I believe, is it Geis?
Geis, yeah.
Yes, and Geis, who looks like another stud, just another line of running backs following Leonard Fournette's footsteps. But they can't find a consistent quarterback. Their quarterback threw for 137 yards.
I know.
137 yards.
13 for 29. His quarterback rating was 10.2.
Yeah, that's
great job.
Not going to get it done. So for me, this is about LSU having to figure out their offense because to me, defensively, I think they're going to be there, and that's how they're going to win games is with their defense. But their offense needs to put up more than 7 points. Get to at least 20, mid-20s. They're not going to be a team that's going to sit here and score 40 or 50 on you. We know that. But if they can get in that mid-20 range, I think their defense can do enough to win them ball games and have them be at least competitive in this SEC because you want to come out and play like you did against Mississippi State, and you might as well throw the towel in for the season because there's no way you're going to beat Alabama like that.
Oh, yeah.
You're not even going to beat a Texas A&M team or a Ole Miss team or an Auburn like that. So, chalk it up as a fluke. Come out next week. Prove that you guys can be competitive and score some points, and I think they're going to be fine.
They probably play like Sam Houston State next week, knowing
more
SEC
than likely.
scheduling too. So they'll get that that extra win, but it's not going to
Middle
mean
Tennessee
much.
State or something like that.
Yeah. So is there any other games we want to talk about? It wasn't that big of a week. We talked about USC, which was another big game.
Yeah, we did talk about the home teams.
So I'm not sure if there's any other games. We did want to discuss San Diego State beating Stanford. I know we talked about Stanford a little bit, but how impressive is San Diego State?
Wow.
This is 2 straight years where they've beat a ranked opponent.
Yes. San Diego State was up, actually, for the majority of this game going into – or I'm sorry, they were up and then they were down for a minute. Stanford ended up scoring a touchdown, and I believe they went up by 4, if I'm not mistaken. But the way that San Diego State was able to stay in this game – and come back and reel off a win. San Diego State was at home, so they did have a little bit of an advantage. But it was at Stanford, this team, I don't really know what to make of them. Coming into the season, I mean, they're going to be a power running team. They're going to have a strong defense. But they beat up on BYU in week 1. Week 2, they lose to USC in a game that I expected USC to win, but I did not expect Stanford to play as poorly. And then obviously this week, going up against a San Diego State team that, yes, is competitive in their conference, but they are nowhere near the caliber team that a Stanford team is. So they were ranked 19th last week, and I'm pretty sure they're not ranked anymore.
Oh, you're talking about Stanford?
Yes.
Yeah, they're not ranked
anymore. They are not ranked anymore. So I don't know what to make of this team. I mean...
It's tough. I guess we'll see against UCLA, right?
I think that's going to tell a lot.
If they lose to UCLA,
then that's
Talk about throwing in the towel.
Yes.
Yeah.
What were your
Go back up to Stanford. I'm impressed with San Diego State. I didn't get to see this game because of the boxing match and the USC game, but once I saw the score, it didn't surprise me because San Diego State has one of the best running backs in college football, and they've had solid talent last couple of years. But I guess they're putting on a show the last couple of years. against these good teams, and that's good for them. There's actually some talent. Finally, a talented football team in Qualcomm Stadium now. So, they kept the team in there. There's one team left, and San Diego State is the best team in the Qualcomm Stadium and has been the last couple of years.
Boy.
Yeah, I mean, why are you saying, oh boy? You were talking so much crap with the Chargers earlier.
I am. I didn't think that was the route you were going, but the fact that you want to
I'm going that route. I always go that route.
Sounds good. I'm with it. Go roll with it.
But good for San Diego State. We'll see what happens with Stanford. Very interesting week as far as those two teams, Stanford and UCLA. So I'll start with my final thought because I know I'll have you explain our bet for next week. It's a big deal. My final thought is the shout out to my brother Chase, who is playing on Fox Sports West this weekend. He goes to Santa Margarita Catholic High School. That's where Carson Palmer went, Clay Thompson went. They're playing the Mission Viejo Diablos, where head coach Bob Johnson has been there for years. This is where Mark Sanchez came from, numerous other NFL players. We were just talking about Stanford. Their fullback Daniel Marks went to Mission Viejo. It's a big game. They're showing it on Fox Sports West. I just wanted to give him a shout out for being on TV this week. Jared, explain the bet now we're doing.
Yes. So week 3 of the NFL season, the Dallas Cowboys are playing the Arizona Cardinals on Monday Night Football. Obviously, I'm a big Cowboy fan. Nick here is an Arizona Cardinals fan. So we have a little bet going on that whoever loses has to wear the jersey of the opponent's team. Mm-hmm. So if the Cowboys win, I am going to bring in I'm going to bring about 5 or 6 jerseys for you to choose from, and you will have to wear that jersey for the entire duration of our show next week, and vice versa. If for some random reason the Cardinals win, I will have to don a red Cardinals jersey of Nick's choice.
Absolutely.
I'm debating if I'm going to bring in a hat. I know Nick likes to wear hats.
I'm going to bring in the hat.
So I might have to bring in a hat as well.
I'm going to make you wear a hat.
We're going to take pictures.
Yep.
It will be posted, so there's evidence.
There'll be videos.
Yes, videos. But it will be very funny to see. You're actually wearing blue today already, so I think you're getting prepared. You look good in blue.
I wear blue because I like this jacket.
Okay, but you look good in blue, so just get prepared to wear blue again next week.
I don't think I haven't seen you wear red too much besides USC stuff, so
I'm
more
wear too much red.
To see what. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, red looks okay on me, but it's really not my first
red
choice.
Hat. Are you more of a red hat, red jersey guy? Is that what you wear? Is that what you wear out?
It's a little too much, my man.
You're gonna wear it next week.
That's standing out a little too much for me. So please no.
Absolutely, that'll be fun. Again, Cardinals Cowboys will be the last game of the weekend, so most people will see it. And the Cardinals will win that one at home.
Okay.
This is the end of the podcast, as you can hear the music and Sandman playing over the sound. This has been a good podcast. Hopefully next week's fun. Obviously, someone will be wearing a jersey of the opponent. Someone will have to don a team they don't like.
One of us will be happy. One of us will be
exactly.
not so happy.
Let's pick it. Does UCLA beat Stanford next week?
Nope.
Real quick. You don't think so?
Nope.
I think they will.
Okay.
USC plays Cal. I'm gonna go Cal. I think Cal wins that game.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Cal. Okay. I think Cal's good.
They are good. Like we mentioned earlier, they did beat Ole Miss, but I'm sticking with USC.
Absolutely,
they're gonna roll.
All right, so it's the Cover 2 podcast. I'm Nick Nina.
I'm Jared Smith,
and we'll see you next week.